1306. What's your pleasure? And,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, Mr. Clausen.
I'm not sure that, let me figure out how I want to present this. I guess basically what I want to say is I'm in support of an increase for the stormwater system. I don't think we have too many options based on the regulations that are coming down, plus the projects that we have to get completed if we want this town not to float away. But having said that, I think that we still need to do some work based on what I've heard here tonight. We have issues that are related to the rate increase. I think Mr. Swan's comments and just the comments in general about if folks make quite an investment in their properties to deal with stormwater, I need to better understand how that relates to what our requirements are under the stormwater utility. I appreciate the fact that part of what they need to do is to be able to control the flow off of their property into the system, whatever that may be. But some kind of on-site type treatment is something completely different. And I guess I need to understand how that would affect the rates, because I don't think it's fair to just simply say, sorry, you've got X number of square feet of impervious surface, therefore you should get that times whatever the ISU is. So I know we've put this off in the past. I don't know that there is a clock ticking or a gun to our forehead. We have to adopt this today.
I think we have to prior to the end of the year, or we need to be able, our permit is next year, correct? Starts next year? At what point do we become non-compliant?
Currently, I am trying to keep you in compliance the best I can with myself as the only one working on the permit compliance in the office. 2015 does bring some new regulations. We are supposed to be starting to work on the total maximum daily load. I currently do not have the time. If I did not get that started in 2015, we do go out of compliance on that piece.
It's really a budget.
January, or is it in March, or when?
Technically, I'm supposed to have a work plan in place right now on how we will start to address this. And we're supposed to be starting to look at options now.
It's basically it's a 2015 budget issue.
So, Andre, you're saying, though, that you need help, right? And until we get this money, you can't get the help you need to carry this forward, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you got to develop a work plan that says how you're going to continue to keep us in compliance starting in January of 2015, right?
Work plan is part of your budget packet.
I understand that part, but the workload on you is to develop that work plan.
It has been developed.
It has been. Okay, so it's in the budget. So as long as we continue with the idea that, I mean, we don't have any option. We have to increase the rates. As long as we continue with that in mind, but take the time to make sure that if there are tweaks that we need to make to this to accommodate it, considerations of properties that have done on-site treatment, for example. I mean, we've got a lot of work to do in a short period of time, granted, but I think we need to do the work. That's my personal feeling.
So do you have a suggestion, a motion, or any,
Well,
all of
I'm
the
not
above?
ready to move to accept this ordinance, I guess, by inaction. That's what I'm saying, and I think we need to revert this back to probably the utility committee with the idea that it needs to come to the next work study with action at the end of November.
One of my I mean, off the top of my head, I'm already thinking that we could potentially, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark and Andrea, we have an enterprise fund just like the water and the sewer, correct?
Correct.
If we mitigate for one, someone else is picking it up.
Granted,
So
Which makes it a higher
So
increase.
somebody else's increase is going to go up, and one of the, I mean, we have one rate for all the residences. Potentially, we could look at, and this isn't a quick fix, though. That's the problem, is we could look at multiple classes in the residential, you know, on a larger home has more impact. We could transfer some of that burden that way. I don't know how we accomplish that, because we got a lot of houses in the city, and I don't think it's physically probably impossible in a short period of time to go analyze every one of the, you know, the larger homes. So we do kind of have a gun against our head, unfortunately. And I think there's some potential solutions and workouts here. And while I really liked Jeff's idea to jump to that $14, maybe we need to just take what we need to fund compliance, and maybe we're going to revisit it halfway through next year and how we're going to fix these other pieces, because I don't see a quick fix.
Well, I guess the comment I'd like to make for the public is, so there are really 4 separate conversations that have now become like an amalgam. One is the rate, and that's for the stormwater utility. That doesn't have anything to do with individual commercial systems, residential systems. The stormwater utility is an EPA mandate that comes from the Water Quality Clean Water Act that has to do with, think of it as a carbon footprint. You know, it's cleaning catch basins, sweeping streets, it's maintaining the facilities that we've picked up mainly through annexation, but it's an impact to the Puget Sound. It doesn't have to do with individual systems. So that's what the utility is about. Finding illicit discharges, cleaning catch basins, cleaning ditches, sweeping streets. That's the program. The new item that's brought in today is the potential to give a credit for somebody that does have a water quality quantity mitigation facility. Now, the unintended consequence of that is if you do one for a commercial property, their on-site system, there's also residential neighborhoods, all developments that, other than old platted lots, that have a storm system that was placed for that development. So you look at, remember Heron Ridge, Ms. Volvic had come to this group many times requesting that the city maintain her residential pond. So potentially you're going to open that. So that's a whole different conversation if you want to look at on-site mitigation for water quality and quantity versus the program, which is our storm utility, roads, and, you know, capital improvements. Then we had, as a completely separate issue, the bed and breakfast issue that came out of the realization that we had 3 bed and breakfasts in town. 2 of them are just a, 3,000 square foot house, and one is a much larger facility that we took to utility committee. And that's a separate conversation. Now, I know the utility billing, I think, possibly jumped the gun on moving ahead with that, but that can be, as Gil said, we can rescind that and still have that as a separate conversation. And then you have the part in the code that talks about home occupation, home business use. That brings up conditional use permits, administrative CUPs. It really has to do with impact. Again, it was never the intent that a home business that's 2,000 square feet or 4,000 square feet or 6,000 square feet, if it's operating as a home, now I learned today that a CUP definition has to do with if people go to the business, I believe, and we could work on that in the code. To me, it's about impact. So we really have these 4 conversations, but they're distinctly separate from the rate increase.
They are separate, but they're somewhat related. The issue of the bed and breakfast is an easy one. We just simply say, keep the number of ISUs the same as they are now until we have time to figure that out.
Right.
The issue of doubling the rates without at least taking a look or considering any kind of adjustments, because I'm not sure what that word adjustment's going to mean until we've had time to look at it. But without having some kind of an adjustment in place in advance, what you're telling that property owner is you're going to pay this higher rate that we're going to approve until we've had time to figure it out, and maybe we can reduce it, which I would rather take a look at it first. That's why I say I'm in support of the rate increase, and I'm committed to doing it before the end of the year. I'm just not committed to doing it right now because I've heard some things here tonight that I think we need to sit down and talk about more than what we're going to be able to do at 9:20 at night.
Okay,
And that's
Mr.
everything I've suggested.
Mr. Cartwright had his hand.
I just wanted to say, Mr. Clausen summarized my thoughts exactly, and I just wanted to share that I support that position.
Yes,
I
sir.
think we're all trying to apply the human element to this, and we're running into roadblocks. I know when I was taking my notes tonight, I've got 3 pages of them, and about every halfway down each page, I've come up with a suggestion, well, we're gonna have to do this, we're gonna have to do that, because we can't allow people to go out of business, and we can't, basically force people out of their homes. And so I'm with you, John. I want to do what's right, and yet I feel like, as we all know, that this is a federally mandated program, that the city is on the hook for not complying. So how do we comply? And then somebody, I think it might have been you, Jerry, said something about, well, this is nothing compared to what's coming. And I agree. What's coming is sewer rates and water rates. And so, I mean, this is a thankless job, and as far as I'm concerned, we are not any different than the rest of you guys. We're just having to make the decisions that makes you, I don't want to use the word hate, but it sounds like it might be appropriate. And so I'm for waiting on this, maybe even a special meeting on it, because it's critical, and we can't just keep putting it off. But to deal with these mitigations, I hear what you're saying, Rob, that, it's an enterprise fund and we can't just be doing this, or we'll everybody else will want it, and then the next thing you know, the 14 won't be 14, it'll be 18 or something, because there will be so many people who have been mitigated in some way. But we need to talk about it. That's the bottom line.
Well, I think, excuse me, Beck, you were.
Well, I was just going to say that I could support the immediate rate increase to $9.70 to allow staff to continue and to keep the city in compliance. And then that would give us perhaps a longer period of time to review the mitigation, because we're going to be making, if we did that, we would be making a rate increase next year. And that would give us a longer period of time to, particularly I think some of the issues are fairly easy to resolve. I think the mitigation issue is the one that's going to be more difficult. And so I could easily support the stepped increase if that would keep the city in compliance and allow us more time rather than giving us 3 or 4 weeks to resolve the issue.
Are you making a motion then?
No, I was just stating my position.
What other discussion? Yes, Mr. Chang.
Well, I'd like to thank Andrea for having the thankless task of making this presentation and drawing all the information together. And when I first heard it from you, I was actually in the camp that thought 970 isn't enough. We need a little bit more for the capital projects, not the 10.7 million that we saw on the screen, but at least some of them, maybe 2 to 3 million of them. That was before we heard from the public, and of course nobody likes their rates increased. I would be surprised if we had an anonymous letter saying, double my rates. But there are things that made me think, and one thing that perhaps the utility committee has discussed it, I don't know, which is, was there any consideration for people on a limited or fixed income? Was there any kind of, you don't have to answer it, but if you haven't discussed something about that, I'd like to know that you have, that you've at least thought about it and maybe rejected it.
Well,
We
we
talked
have,
about it at the work study, and once again, it's the enterprise fund, and if we lower those rates for one party, we're raising everyone else's rates, and that was at the work study, I believe, that we talked about.
Yeah, I don't remember that because I kept thinking of the woman, the first speaker actually, who said that she had a fixed income, and I thought, well, someday all of our incomes will be fixed, so I understand that plight. But is there some policy that we could?
well, we do have already, a couple of years ago, we entered into that KCR utility billing. It's a one-time, we pay your, forgiveness program. You have to be below the federal define poverty line, and you have to agree to KCR coming into your household and helping you put together a budget. And so we do have something on the books for utility billing relief currently.
I just want to add that I would also support what Becca said about going immediately for the compliance component for an incremental, but maybe the utility committee could also consider different timeframes, like have you thought of raising rates in the middle of the year? I know it's not elegant from a budgeting standpoint, but it is away from the year-end Christmas binge where people can't recover for several months. So maybe if we started raising rates in July, we could do an incremental, maybe every 6 months or something.
Unfortunately, it was the way that the process worked out for finishing up the gap analysis, and that's why I had started the conversation in May, was to get it at least entertained and started to think about it.
Based on the presentation we got, if we fund the minimum compliance now, we are dealing with it by the end of next year again. And hopefully, I would advocate for Beck's position also, that let's fund the minimum compliance, see if we can find some mitigation solutions. I think you're right. Many of the other things are easy to fix. This mitigation piece, it's a big gorilla, and I don't think we're gonna solve it in 3 weeks or a month. I think I just don't know how we can analyze the residents. Maybe it's not the larger residences. I don't have an answer tonight, but I think we need to try to find some opportunity for mitigation or study that and see what that looks like. There could be unintended consequences to that we haven't seen.
Correct.
And I don't want to do it quickly.
Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion. It may not pass, but.
All right,
just
let's
to
move
this on.
forward then with the motion.
I move to adopt an ordinance amending Port Orchard Municipal Code 13.06 storm drainage utility to be effective January 1st, January 15, to a rate of
$9.70.
$9.70.
Second.
Motion and a second. Everybody understand the motion on the floor?
I don't know
We're
that
up-
I do.
whoops.
You're taking it from 7 up to 9?
Up to 970, with a caveat that we will work to resolve the concerns through the utility committee and bring back to the council in the next, gosh, I hope we can go to $14 or whatever we need to fund these capital projects at some point mid-year and not be dealing at this at the 11th hour next year.
This will get us in the game.
Mr. Cartwright had his hand up.
Discussion yet, Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I can't support it, Rob, and I'll tell you why. There's still language in here, and we will effectively be raising folks' rates, whether it's $7 to $14 or $7 to $9.70. There's, until this language is adjusted to the satisfaction of the full council, I can't support raising a rate.
We're not charging,
But first of all, I really want to say this. Well, first of all, the ordinance says commercial. It doesn't say anything about business license. I'm not sure where that language originated, but it doesn't say anything about home businesses, and our home businesses are very clearly defined under our chapter 16.38. And I don't see how any home business defined under this chapter would qualify as commercial.
this motion on the floor isn't addressing that at all.
No, but it is addressing what Mr. Cartwright just said. And Mr. Cartwright said that he was concerned of the language in the ordinance, and I don't think that is a particular issue. I don't know where this business license came from.
And I'm simply repeating what Mr. Dorsey said, that there's language that needs to be cleaned up because it's not clear.
Well, not in this particular
Not in this document?
ordinance. No, we need to go back into like I said, I need to get with Nick, and we need to look at the definitions of home occupation and conditional use. We need to look at the, definition of commercial, and, this conversation about, are we going to give a credit? The B&B issue was a separate definable conversation that, again, I agree that we can rescind what was sent out by utility billing until we straighten that out. But in my mind, I see those as separate.
Yeah, they're separate issues. We're not gonna bill any differently. I don't support, I'm not working in the billing department, but I don't support billing any different than we have for the last, 6, 8 years. And I don't believe that us raising this rate changes the number of IFUs or, whether it's a home-based business or not. It's dealing with the rate structure itself. That's the only thing I believe we're passing here this evening or discussing.
No, because I think the ordinance,
We're not changing anything that's not already in place.
Yes, Mr. Clausen.
I guess I don't think that it's going to take us that long to look at this issue. What we heard is we can go 2 blocks away and find out what the county's doing, and we can take a short ferry boat ride across and see what Bremen is doing. I'm not suggesting that we need to reinvent the wheel. I'm just suggesting that let's take a look at how other jurisdictions may have dealt with this issue, because it's not unique to Port Orchard.
Right.
And I think we could get that accomplished fairly quickly. I'm concerned, and it sounds like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, I'm concerned that we're going to set a rate that is going to be too low to get things done. And we're going to have the same kind of discussion when we want to go from $9 to $14. I think we need to do what we need to do to get us in compliance and get some of these projects off of our to-do list. But I just think that we're close. We're just not quite there yet.
Can I,
Carol has something.
I actually agree
Mr.
with
Charles.
John, and I agree with Rob. Now, I am talking out both sides of my mouth.
You're a politician, aren't you?
I think, I think that we can pass the 970, get our situation worked out with a little less hecticness, if there is such a word. And then and then by, as Rob was saying, halfway through the year, we go to the 14, and we have hopefully dealt with people who have extenuating circumstances. That's what I think. So I'm not saying go 970, then go the 11 or 12, whatever it is, Andrea, then go to the other and really not get where we're going. I'm saying do the 970 to get us in the game, to get some money coming in, hopefully get you to hire somebody, and then in 6 months, after we've talked about it, put
I hope in 3
together the
months.
whole system, maybe even less, I don't care. And then off we go to what we need to practice due diligence and get this utility solid.
I'd like to just say one or a very short statement. I agree with Mr. Patonsu. We need to do something to keep us moving, at least holding our ground with the federal government, and this would do that, at least, right, temporarily. And then don't make any promises to the public that we're not going to follow up at a certain point, we're not sure when, with an additional rate increase. This isn't the end of it. I mean, we're not saying this is the end of it, but we're going to take this opportunity to do a couple of things, straighten out some of the testimony that we've heard tonight, and make sure that we're going to go through or not going to go through with some of those other things. But right now, it's just this rate increase that we're going to be voting on. So I think it might be a solution myself. Yes.
I just have one more comment, and that is, we paid a professional to do this stormwater analysis for us and come up with the graduated step increase. I believe Pace Engineering did that. And I'm not sure that I have the skill set to override their recommendations. Well, I mean, this is what they said, this is what the professionals told us we needed to do.
To stay compliant,
To stay
not to get ahead on the CIP.
Well, to start the.
We don't start even collecting money for CIP until 2017.
Correct.
We don't raise it at 14 sooner.
Correct.
and again, I'm gonna echo like John, we need to do something. I think, I'm not opposed. I think, John, I think you're right. I don't think 970 is gonna do it for what we need. But I'm confused on when we have to pass this as far as having money in the budget for 15. Budget's not passed yet.
We do have.
Can we wait another month to bring this back to council, get some
Well,
information and work done,
I
and plug it
can
into
t-
the budget?
I guess I can tell you right now that to answer these three other, to have a utility committee meeting, work study, there's no time left in 2014. You're talking about. the
We
bed
still
and
have
breakfast
budget
issue.
process to work through, too.
Yeah, the bed and breakfast issue, changing the in-home business wording, and this credit thing, they're all a 215 item. It won't happen this year. There's not enough days left, so.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Clausen.
Maybe we could, I'm concerned that we're just putting a Band-Aid on this thing, and that we're not gonna deal with what we need to deal with, and let's just, what's the current term used all the time, we're kicking the can down the road. Something that would make me feel a little more comfortable, that if the motion was to increase to 970 January, and then go to 14 in
3
May,
months later,
June,
yeah, whatever.
you know, so we approve the step up now. And that gives us and forces us to get our work done by the time that next increase happens.
But a motion to amend or something?
Well, if it requires that, then I would move to amend the motion to add that by June 1, we will increase from 970 to 14.
And also deal with the other code issues that have been brought up here this evening.
Oh,
In
absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
process. I could second that motion, but it's a second.
Can you second the motion on the,
It's a separate motion.
It's an
Now,
amendment.
let's go ahead and work through the amended motion. Amended motion is to pass 970 tonight, effective January 1st, and then, what was the date that you said?
June 1, I just picked the date.
June 1st, it will go up to 14. Okay? That's the amendment we're going to be discussing and going to vote on,
As well as deal with,
as well as deal with these other questions that have been
issues.
brought up tonight, and decide about those. Yeah.
I don't know what dealing with them means other than we just.
Well,
we're-
discussing them, I mean, they're not part of this vote, so.
Takes action
Take
to
action.
either change or not to change.
Yeah.
Then that's dealing with it.
Resolve. Mr. Cartwright.
I'm okay with that, with resolve, because these things need to be looked at and fixed if possible to the full satisfaction of the council before the rate to 14, and so that gives staff until June 1st to get that done.
Okay.
well, it's
Any other
utility
person?
committee and
It's
council.
this body that needs to get the work
Yeah.
done. So,
Okay, any other comments on the amended motion that we have on the floor? All right, seeing no more comments then, we'll be voting on the amended motion, and that is to go from 970 January in June to 14, and also
Resolve.
resolve the questions that were brought up tonight.
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, the amendment is to go from 970 to 14 June 1 and resolve these other issues. The original motion
970?
establishes a 970 come January, so.
Right, but we have to deal with this motion, and then,
We deal with this motion, if it passes, then the motion is as you present it, it's 970 January, goes up to 14 in June 1, but we gotta pass the amendment.
yep. So, any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Let the record show that two are in, or do we need a raise of hands?
Repeat the amendment, please. Just repeat the amendment.
Okay, the amendment is that we are going to increase the rate January.
No.
June
No.
1st.
June 1st, from $9.70 to $14.
We're going to set the, okay,
Okay, then
First
then I'm
motion takes it to
misunderstanding.
$9.70.
Okay,
The
all right,
second
okay.
motion takes it from $9.70, the amendment does.
let's ask the attorney here. Are we,
No, that's,
are you as confused as I am? Okay.
The maker of the motion, let me, or the
Okay, I see, yes, I understand what you're
explain
saying.
my
It
intent.
was 9/7.
My intent was to add to the motion on the table, which says, come January 1, we're going to establish a rate at 970.
Okay,
That's the first motion.
My amendment would add to that to say, come June 1, it will go from 970 to 14, and we will have dealt with these issues that have been presented tonight,
Resolve the issues.
resolve these issues.
okay. Is that all right?
Good for me.
That clear?
Clear as mud.
Okay.
And the reason that I voted no on that is I didn't like the hard dollar number in there at 14, because
I agree.
if we take no action, it's automatically going to go up to 14 on June 1st without additional vote or
Why would it do
by
that?
us, because that's what the motion says.
That's right.
That's what the motion says. It would automatically go up there. We may find that when we get through this process of resolving these issues and getting through what a mitigation may look like, that $14 may be a different number. And that's why I voted no.
And you can change that number anytime between now and June 1. This body sets that number, and this body can change that number. So if
Then
we
why do we need to
discover in our
list it?
deliberation that it needs to be
I don't
something
think we should
different,
list it.
Yeah, it would be in
I don't
place.
think we should list it. I don't think we should.
It was
Can we
muddy.
vote
when-
again on the amendment?
Yeah, we need to vote again, I think, on the amendment, because I was unsure who voted and who didn't.
Yes, okay. We'll vote on the amendment again, revote the amendment. All those in favor of the
State it one more time. State the amendment, please.
The amendment is that in June 1st, the rate increases to $14, and we, what was the word we were going to
we'll
use?
resolve
We resolve the issues that were brought up tonight.
to the council's satisfaction.
Okay, all those in favor of the amendment then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Raise your hand for no.
Yes, we have,
Oh, which one is which, huh? The no?
No.
Yeah, the noes.
all right. That motion carries by a 4-3 vote. All right. Now we're back to the main motion, and that's, correct? That's the $9.70. It's pretty clean right now.
Effective January 1st,
Effective
2015.
January 1st.
And
And the
June
amendment.
1,
Yes.
go to
Because now it's
14
amended.
and resolve the issues. That's how the new motion is.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the main motion?
Why not just separate those two?
We just took that vote.
I know.
Okay. All those in favor of the main motion on the floor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Let the record show the same three are in opposition. That motion carries. Okay, that takes care of item 6 for tonight. And now, council, we are really getting close to, and before you told me we never want to go past 10 o'clock. Should we have that executive session really quickly? So, because that's something that has, I've been told has to be done tonight. Let's go ahead and go into executive session for 5 minutes, Mr. Bond.
Concerning potential litigation is
This is concerning potential litigation. Okay.